welcome to this episode on my App Tutor TV. This week we're going to be looking at creating this Lichtenstein pop art effect on this woman here. First of all, we're going to create have the image create a black outline to it, then add in these dots, and then finally finish off with a background. Okay, here we are at the start of our project. The first thing I need to do is I need to convert this image here into a layer. In fact, I need to convert it into 3 different layers because we're going to need that amount to start with. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom out a bit here on the image just by using the Control- buttons, and then you're just going to use the keyboard shortcut Control A to select everything in here, and then the keyboard shortcut Control-Shift-Alt-J, which will give us a new layer, and let's name this layer Original, and then press OK to accept that, and you'll see it gives us an original layer and gives us a background of white. So let's duplicate this a couple more times. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Control-Alt-J, and I'm going to call this one Lady, press OK, and then Control-Alt-J again. I'm going to call this one Effect and press OK, and that gives us our 3 copies of our image. Okay, we can hide the original layer here, and we leave the lady layer visible and select the effect layer here, and then we're going to add a few filters to this. The first thing we need to do is convert this effects layer into a smart object. And the way we can do that is in several ways. We could either come over to the image here, we could right click on the word effect here and select convert to smart object, or if we had a marquee tool here, we could just right click in the image and select convert to smart object, or of course we could come up to edit here, layer, and convert it to a smart object, which we'll do. And there you go, we can tell we've got a smart object because we get the little icon in the bottom right hand corner. Now we're going to add a few filters to it. So let's go up to the filter menu here and select filter gallery, and in the filter gallery that comes up, I'm going to choose the photocopy layer or filter that I've got here, and then we just need to adjust the settings. Well, I've already adjusted these because I went through this before, but you just fiddle around with these till you get something that's showing some outlines in it. Don't worry if you get in these grey areas here, we'll deal with those later, and the darkness here darkens those sort of areas off, and it's just a matter of eyeballing it and coming to a decision on what's best. I reckon around 10 is pretty good, and then just click OK. The next filter we're going to add is a blur. So with the effect still selected, come up to filter, down to blur, go down to Gaussian blur, select it, have a radius of about 2. It depends of course on your image, and what this will do, it'll smooth out the lines we have in our image, and just click OK. And there we go, there's our filters. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a bit of contrast to this, but first of all I'm just going to remove the mask we got here for the smart filters because we don't need it. So I'm just going to right click and select delete filter mask, and then with this selected I'm going to come down to the adjustment layers here. I'm going to hold Alt down on my keyboard and click on it and select levels, and in the levels that come up I'm just going to change this to contrast and click OK. And what I want to do is I want to set the first box here to 70, this will darken up the image slightly, and then set the light values to 170, and you'll see it gives us a really good outline and gets rid of all the other slight greyish tones that we had to our image. And the next thing I want to do is I want to clip this to the effect down below. We could either do that here by pressing this button, but if you fail to do that you can always come into the layer you got here and then just press the Alt button, and you see my icon turns to this clipping mask layer, and then you just click it on the line in between the layers you want to clip it to, and there you go, we've clipped it to that layer below. The next thing we need to do, we need to change the blend mode of this particular layer. So let's just select it and then come up to the blend mode here and select multiply, and you'll see that it allows the background to come through. The next thing I need to do is I need to tidy up some of the black blemishes we have in our sort of line art layer here. For example, this bit here and this bit under the eye and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do is just going to add a mask to this layer. So press the mask icon here, and then we get it, choose the brush tool, ensure you've got black selected, and then you just come down and just right click, ensure you've got the hardness set all the way to 100, and then let's start just clicking away, removing the blemishes that we don't want to be in our image. There's just a few in here, not too many. I think that's probably about it. Now the next thing we need to do is create the benday dots within our image. So what we're going to do is come to the top layer here, and then we want to flip over to Illustrator, which I've already got running in the background here. So here it comes in, and then we just want to select a new file. So let's go to File, select New. Now it doesn't matter what size it is, just click OK. Because we're essentially just going to be bringing something in here, copying it out and pasting it back into Photoshop. What we need to do in here then is get the Swatches panel. Now if it's not showing, you can come up to Window, come down to where it says Swatches and click on that, and it'll pop up open here. And then we need to load some brushes libraries here, or Swatches libraries. So let's go down to the Swatch libraries menu here, click on it, and then we're going to go down to Patterns, Basic Graphics, and select Basic Graphics Dots. And in this box that pops up, you can see that we've got a load of different dots in here. Now if you can't quite see what's in here, you can come to this little drop down list here and select Large Thumbnail View, and it gives us a pretty bigger picture of what's in here. And the one we want to select, if you just hover your cursor over, is the 10 dpi at 50%. So just click on that and you'll see that it now appears in our Swatches panel. We can just close this down, and then we can double click on the swatch here to get its parameters, and you'll see that it pastes that in here as sort of example and gives us our pattern options dialog box. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom on in by Control+ing all the way in until I can see them pretty big, and then I'm just going to draw a marquee selection around all of these so I've got them all selected. What we need to do now is come up to the Window menu here and go down to where it says Attributes to show the attributes here. And if you're not seeing all of these things here, say it looks a bit like this, well, you just need to click on this Expand icon here, and it'll just expand everything out here. And then you just need to click on this icon here, which is the Show Center, and you see now it shows the center of the circles here. We can close this down now. And then what you need to do is grab a rectangle tool here, and then I'm going to draw from one of the centers here, and you'll see that I've got the smart guides up here, so it's showing me the center, and I'll just click on where it says center and it'll snap to it, and then down to the bottom here and snap to it again. And what I need you to take notice of is the dimensions in that little information box at the bottom of my cursor. They're saying width 14.4 points, height 14.4 points. Now just remember that. If I let go here, of course it'll then draw a square. I'm just going to Control Z to remove that square. Come back to my selection tool. What we're going to do is come up to Edit, select Copy, and then we can just minimize this down here. And then in Photoshop here, we're just going to go up to Edit and select Paste. We need to make sure we got Shape Layer selected as the Paste option and click OK. And in it comes, it's really small, it's down here. You can barely see it. I'm just going to zoom in a bit here so we can see it a little bit more. So what we should do here is a little bit of housekeeping. Let's just rename this layer. So let's just rename this to Ben-Day Dots, which is what it is. And then let's just zoom in that little bit more to about this size we've got here. Now we need to make a marquee selection of these dots equivalent to what we just did in Illustrator. Remember that 14.4 points? Well, let me explain how this works. And if we come up to image size here, now you see here that we're working on a resolution of 72 pixels per inch. We were working in 72 points per inch, which is what you do in Illustrator because everything works to a pixel. So therefore it's the exact same ratio that we have here in Photoshop. So if I get my selection tool here and then draw a selection of approximately 14, I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger here. Come up to my style here and select fixed size, and I need to type in here 14.4 and in here 14.4, press enter, and that gives us, when I click again, the exact size of our selection. So all we need to do now is have our selection tool selected and then just nudge this over. I'm using the cursor keys here to nudge this over, and I'm going to get the perfect size here. And all you need to do is get it in and around the middle here, which is basically what we've got here. Okay, so with that selected, let's go up to Edit and down to Define Pattern, and then let's just give this a name of Ben-Day Dots, and then click OK. Once we've done that, we can turn off the Ben-Day Dots layer here, and then we can press Ctrl D to deselect everything. Let's just Ctrl O to zoom out completely, and let's just turn off a few layers here. Let's turn off the effects layer here, which will in turn turn off the contrast layer here, and then let's select the lady layer here. What we need to do now is we need to select the woman here in her entirety. So let's go up to the select menu here and select color range, and all we need to do is select this white area here. Now it's already done it here, and you need the fuzziness set to about 15. Seems pretty good here. Maybe even drop this down even more. Yeah, you can probably drop this down to about 10. Looks good. And then just click OK, and you can see that it's got a bit of a ruffled edge here, so we just need to refine that edge here. So let's click on the refine edge, and we need to get rid of all these little jaggedy red bits out here. So let's click on Smart Radius, and let's just move our radius out here a bit more. And you can see that it's got rid of most of them. There are a few areas that it's not going to quite work, like inside the hand here. We're going to need to maybe do a little bit of trimming up the top hand here, but in a nutshell that's pretty much good. But what we need to do is we need to invert that selection now. So select Inverse, and it inverses that selection for us. Now we can get that layer back, the effects layer, and then let's just select the contrast layer here, and then we're going to come down and we're going to add our pattern. So the first things we're going to do is press Alt on our keyboard and press the little black and white icon here and come up to Pattern, and let's just give this a name. Let's call it Dark Dots, and then just click OK, and you'll see straight off the bat we get the previous pattern that or the last pattern that we were working with, which was our pattern here, and it's coming pretty good like so. I like the scale that's at. Maybe just bump it down a tad, maybe have a look at 90. No, I think 100%. That was pretty good, and then just click OK. So we need to change the blend mode in this so that we can see through it. So let's change it from normal up to multiply, and you'll see it shows through quite nicely there. Then we need to change the color of it here. So with it selected here, come down to the FX icon here, and let's choose a color overlay. And the color overlay that comes in, well, we don't want red, so let's just choose a more orangey color here, and what I'm going to go for is 20 degrees, about 77%, and leave it at 100% here, and it gives us this sort of orangey effect. Click OK, and then just change the blend mode from normal to screen, and that gives us this orangey effect. It's a bit too orangey, but we'll deal with that in a second. And we do that by coming up to the blending options, custom here, and then just checking this box here, which is the blend interior effects as group. Click on that, you'll see that the only bits that are coloured are indeed those dots. Just click OK. Now you can see the few little anomalies we got. We don't really want the dots to be inside the eyes, and indeed they need to be erased from outside here. So all we need to do is, with the mask selected here, is make sure we've got a brush selected, make sure black is selected, and then I'm just going to zoom in, and then just scoot on over by pressing the spacebar down. Then all I need to do is paint in black in the areas that I don't want it. I need to just be a little bit careful here. So I'm just erasing all on the inside of the black line that sort of designates where her eye is, and same this side here. I'm going to come down to just where the eyelashes are on the image here, and that'll probably do us. Let's scoot once more over to where that hand is, and then I'm just going to erase all around in here like so, and then just Control 0 to zoom all the way out. And now that I've zoomed out, I just noticed that the teeth here could probably do with being erased out as well, so make sure you've still got that mask selected here, and if you need to change the size of it, just use your brackets keys on your keyboard just to change the size of it. And also noticed, seeing these white bits up here, well, you don't really want them, because it's the skin ultimately that we're wanting to change. These little bits in here, there you go, and there's just one more area, and that's just here and here on the glasses, like so. And I think we're pretty much there. You can fiddle around with this as much as you like, just to get it to what you class as perfect. There you go. So I just touched up the last little bits and bobs here just to get them all off of the glasses. And now what we need to do is we just need to tone down the background here. So let's select the lady layer down here. Let's double click on it, and it will bring us up the layer styles dialog box here. Now what we need to do is just drag the slider over here, which will get rid of the colour, and it'll get dark here. Drop it down to about 100, and then alt click on the icon itself here, which split it, and drag that one all the way up to about 200, which softens the effect between the two, and then click OK. The last thing I want to do here is I want to colour the background in with a sort of gradient blue layer. So the first thing we need to do is we need to select a mask to ensure that we don't draw all over our character here. And at the minute, you see, if I come down to the background here and change the colour there, well, it might work. So let's just have a look. So let's come down here, let's choose a colour, let's say, let's go for blue, click OK, and if I click in here, well, as you can see, it doesn't. It draws all over the image, and that's not exactly what we want. So what we need to do is we need to come in here, hold Control down, and you'll see that I get the mask icon here, and I click on that. It selects that mask. Then I can come down to the background here. I'm going to select a gradient, select it here, and I'm going to select a gradient from white to blue, as you can see here, and then just drag it. We need to obviously inverse that selection naturally, and in fact we need to go the other way, so there you go. So, and you see the problem we got here is that the mask is in fact masking out these areas here. We need them to remain white. So we can do this one or two ways. We can either simply come into those areas and paint them white afterwards, which might be the easiest option. So leaving that like it is now, let's come to the paintbrush. Let's Control D to remove any selections we've got. Increase the size of our brush. Make sure that we've got white, so I'll just press D to get the default colors and X to switch the colors, and ensure we've got the background selected here. And then I'm just going to paint the areas that I need to be white in here, like so. Oh, make sure we don't go out the lines. Imperative. And there you go. Let's just press Control 0 to maximize. Press F a couple of times on our keyboard. Just press Control O once more, and it'll maximize our view. And there is our Lichtenstein pop art.